All right, so we're working on our lighting. I did ask on Tuesday that you find or create a scene that have both interior and exterior components to it, right? So we've got some nice dark rooms that we can put lights and shadows in, and then something outside where we can use a directional light. So let's pull this up. I'm not going to walk through everything, but I will highlight kind of either the newer or funner things we can do. So here I've got it. Cooking show style. Here's my ingredients laid out, and then I've also got one that I attempted to bake, and I may or may not have completely locked my computer trying to do all the things in one scene. Not a big deal. So let's go back to this. So we need interior, we need exterior. We'll do some area lights. That absolutely area lights can only be baked. And again, let me point these out right here. So this Unity Learn thing that I've linked on one of our pages in our module does a great job of here's all the light types. Here's how to add a point light. Here's how to add, scroll down, I think the next one's spot, right? Spotlights, directional lights, all these things. And if you're into getting all the little points and badges on here, then this is worth 10 XP on Unity Learn. So this will be good as you're sitting down to do this to go back and look at. So there's all the light types there. Anyway, area lights can only be baked, cannot be real time. So we'll put those in, and then we will find the right tabs. So we need all the light types. We'll use a spotlight. Definitely, you can use a spotlight for other things. So I'm looking for at least one of each light type in your scene and or scenes. If you can't bake it all into one scene, you want to have a separate scene for like something else, that's fine. So we need area light, we need a directional light, point light, and a spotlight. We're definitely going to have a flashlight that we carry around, whether first or third person. It's a good use for a spotlight. If you need spotlights for other stuff, great. We'll use cookies. And then one thing that I added that Chaz didn't have to do last year, but I was like, why didn't we do that last year? Is emissive materials. So we can set a property on a material to bake light into our scene. And I've got a few things that I've downloaded. I've got like some phasers, some space guns that have like just the little red parts is the emissive. So you can have an actual emissive channel in your textures, and it's all the whole thing is blacked out except the one part that you want to emit light. And so I've got a phaser that's got like a couple of red lights on it as the emissive, or you can set the entire texture to be emissive, which maybe why I completely broke my computer trying to bake that scene. But we'll play with some emissive materials. For baked lighting to work, you have to mark things static. If you didn't mark anything static, your bake's going to go really fast, but also it won't work. And then light probes. So light probes are cool. If I've got some dynamic objects, right? So the other thing I'm gonna have you do is in your scene, you'll need to make some nav mesh agent or something, maybe not quite a cluster truck that just flies through. Probably a nav mesh would be best. That's gonna walk through your static rooms that have baked lighting. And what the baked lighting does is like I said, it creates a light texture that overlays all the other textures in your room. When we put a light probe in there, then it approximates, hey, if you're right here in the middle of the room, you're going to get this much illumination on you, and it will fake some light onto your nav mesh agent walking through the room, so it doesn't look completely out of place. So we'll do some light probes. We'll definitely bake. We'll have the nav mesh, first or third person with a flashlight. We'll look at a couple different types of reflection probes, so you can just set anything to be a mirror in Unity. Kind of cool. And then I want you to import your own personal models, FBXs, that we'll not only mark static, but I want to point out that we can do a thing on the import for the materials to generate a second set of UVs just for light maps. So when we're baking, if your model's really dumb and just like has one very, very poor unwrap around it because all you did was color it gray in Blender or Maya or whatever, this will unwrap it and create a whole new set of UVs for it so the light can go across it nicely. So we're going to jump to Unity. First thing, cookies, one of my favorites. So cookies now work on directional lights, spotlights, endpoint lights. I'll add it to the directional light just to show what's going on, and it kind of you get to preview it on the last scene. So I've already brought it in as a cookie. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and we'll start over. Nope, you know what? I don't want to break my bake on the other scene. Let's go over here. So we'll grab this cookie. We'll look at a couple more. This is an actual graphic right here. So I'm going to save that. DET cookie 3, number 1, sure. We'll look what that looks like. So it's white and alpha. So here, right, the alpha is all faded out. So we just see just the white components. So this is a cookie of our little logo. And if I bring this into Unity and play with the settings properly, so drag it down here, literally every time, nothing wants to import into Unity anymore. Maybe it's just 22 being weird. All right, you go away. So here's our new one. Let's rename it just so I know. Okay, so I got my new cookie. So if I come over here to my inspector, if I change the texture type to cookie, then I can choose what I'm going to put it on. So it's going to change up a little bit what we want to do. For the most part, that I can tell that the spotlight and directional ones are about the same. We're projecting them like the bat signal. Here the whole time, we haven't been looking at it, is this slot for cookies. Now it grew. So I just drag this up here. Yeah. And so kind of seems backwards in my brain. The alpha part, we don't shine light through. The clear part, we don't shine light through. I don't know why that's the thing. I don't know why the cookie's made that way. But you'll get light through the white part of your cookie. So you may have to invert your cookie that you're planning on. This is what it looks like with our directional light. And if I move the directional light around, so ordinarily directional light doesn't matter where it's at. It's going to shine the same light. Once you put a cookie on it, its rotation and position kind of matter. So the size itself, yeah, right here, we've got cookie size. And so there was 10. If I set it at 1, it looks a little weird. So I'm going to put it back at 10. Leave it there. Let me go back to my import settings here because that's what we need. So this wrap mode is what's going on with this cookie. So if I just wanted this to do once, I'd say clamp. And then, of course, I got to apply it. And I've got just the DET logo shining out of this directional light once. There's a whole bunch of other cool settings in here. So we can have it repeat, which is what was on, mirror. And without anything else, it's just going to go flip-flop all over the place. So frontwards, backwards, upside down, it's just going to mirror all over. If I change it to mirror once, apply that. I could see this being useful if like you just made like a quarter of a pie's worth of a roundish thing and you said mirror it, and we got, nice cookie that way. Or per axis, like we can just change this all up. Say mirror once on the U and repeat on the V. And again, what does U and V mean? Oh, I guess it's the other class we talked about that. What's UV mean, or our UVs, UV unwrap? It means nothing. It's made up garbage. Because in 3D we use X, Y, and Z, and when I started thinking about unwrapping, first they used U, V, and W because there was the other 3 that came before that. So it's all based on this Cartesian stuff. And then we realized, wait a minute, a texture is only 2D. There is no W. So now it's just UV. Yeah. So anyway, so this is mirroring once on the U and then repeating on the V. So if you need your logo to just go across the entire landscape like that, Anyway, those are all the things we can do. So I'm just gonna set it to clamp, fully to clamp. There we go. So we got one. So that's a cookie. You can put it on spotlight. One thing that I've seen, really cool thing to do with this is if you put it on a spotlight, you can find. Let me just go look them up. Actually, you can find some really cool flashlight cookies. And so we put this on our flashlight, our spotlight, and this will look like a light coming out of a flashlight. So really cool stuff. I've got another flashlight that I downloaded that came with, instead of a cookie, they use 3 different spotlights with different cones to give this like concentrated circle look. Go grab some of these. You had a question, Talon? It's an alpha, right? Where the white part we're shining light through, and the cleared part, nothing. The clear part blocks light. Huh? Just black and white, literally, without the alpha. I don't think it'll work. I think it'll look like you don't have a cookie on because you have something in the channel all throughout the image, so it's just going to shine the light straight through everything. Let me see if I can view this in a new tab. This is black and white. Maybe I'm insane. Maybe they changed it up. Maybe it's just not previewing right. So that'll do it. Yeah. Let's just see if we can use this as is, or if this Google search was completely useless. There it is. Okay. Can I set this? Yeah, I can choose cookie. I like how it just defaults to spotlight. It already knows what we're about to do. Okay. That shouldn't matter. Alpha source. Oh, okay. Here we go. So there's different import settings now. So maybe from the grayscale, we can try that. And then clamp is fine. Let's try this. Since we've already got one set up, I'm just going to drag this over, see what happens. Okay. Black and white now works. Yeah. Obviously, it would look better on a smaller flashlight, not a big old sun shining this down on us. But huh? So I've already got the intensity of this one turned down. So here's our default for a directional light. So that makes sense. So yeah. Now we've got new import settings. We can use different types of images. So this from grayscale worked. If I went back to the texture alpha, applied that, then we've got the problem. But now with it wouldn't work on this one, I don't think, because we don't have alpha, but it would probably invert my other one. So where am I at? So yeah, so grayscale works great if you find a black and white image. So those can be used. Really, really want to squirrel and make this video longer, and I've just got to go find the bat symbol. But no, we're gonna hold off.
Can you do that with plastics? Like water reflection or like glass?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Well, so you change the color of the light? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's definitely a thing that I probably should have put in our rubric. Light color is a big deal. You can change all the colors up, do all kinds of fun stuff with that. So that's a possibility. So anyway, those are cookies. I haven't played with them yet, but now that we see all these new import settings, there are point light ones. So basically a sphere map you could use. So if you wanted your glowing light bulb or crystal ball or who knows what to shine out some weird patterns like this, a sphere map would be good to have. All right, that works. before we get too much further. Dang it. And I broke it again. There we go. I said save it. No, I didn't actually want to save it. Change this back. Got it on the directional. All right. Area lights, I'll show you what those look like. Let me just save this scene. I'll jump over to the other scene. Some of these things we'll just look at what they do. Others I'll show how they're set up. So let me jump to my other scene, which would be in the scenes folder. That makes sense. All right. I've got it much darker in this scene. So actually I'll show this. So the lighting, I like this dock next to the inspector, but if you go to Windows and Rendering, we get both our lighting window and our lighting explorer. So the lighting window where you can bake your lights from, I like to dock next to the inspector once I've got it. If you go to Environment, whatever your night sky is whatever your skybox is by default, you get ambient light from. So even when we only have a directional light in there, or if we add a whole bunch of other stuff to our scene, jump back to the other one, right? Our default Unity skybox here, this gray to blue procedural gradient thing they've got going on, that generates ambient light all the time. And so when we bake light, that gets baked onto everything. So if I baked this scene right now, first off, I don't know if I set all my stuff right. Let's go ahead and say everything on the floor is static. Yes, change children. So those are all going to be static. And if I tell this directional light to be, it's already on mixed. Mixed is cool. So we get baked and real-time light from it. So it'll count in the bake, but then when dynamic objects come through, it will also shine light on that. But it's not having to calculate light for everything. Yeah, it says I already figured that out. You've got a light map for that, and then it's just worried about the other stuff. So I'm just going to set this to baked, and I'm going to do a really, really dumb thing and try to bake my scene here live like an idiot. I'm going to I'm going to hide everything else. So all my other light sources I'm going to get rid of. Okay. There are some real-time lights in the water trap here and in the fire trap. And then I've got the spotlight cookie on the directional light here. And that should be enough. I said everything. So if I bake this, though, I'm still going to get ambient light, which we're already seeing in the scene, right? So I would think if I've only got the one light and I just baked the one light, everything else is going to be pitch dark, but not the case. So we get ambient light from the skybox. This one actually shouldn't take long, fingers crossed. A couple minutes. But you'll see everything still kind of retains this blue look and after the bake because of the skybox ambient light. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you really wanted pitch black horror scene, you would either just get a completely black skybox. You could set it to a color here and say your environment lighting is black or deep purple or whatever, and just bake that, and we wouldn't get all this extra color and light on stuff. Which is, I mean, it's nice actually that we get light from the skybox. Here we go. You can see different ones some have been baked and some haven't. So as in the middle of your bake, you'll see some things are dark, some are light. It'll take a minute. So anyway, I just want to point that out. When you're going to do a bake and you're like, wait a minute, I've still got light everywhere. It's because of the ambient lighting in the environment stuff here. So we need to turn that way off with the intensity, which is by default at 1 and pulling from the skybox, or just switch that to a color. I wonder if I can switch scenes in the middle of this bake without blowing my computer up. Let's try it. Save the changes. Yeah, here we go. My bake's probably not going to happen. The bake stopped. So here on this one, I changed the intensity down to 0.1. And I got just a slightly darker skybox with clouds and stuff in it. So my mostly baked scene, you can see, is much darker. This DET is baked. I'm just going to walk through and point out stuff that I did in my look. I've already got one in the oven scene here. Or not. Okay, so I've got a flashlight that I'm carrying around. I put a disc area light on top of the barrel and pointed it up, and then baked that, and then a cube on top of this. So the area lights, we almost want them to be like full light portals. They don't actually shine anything on themselves on their surface. They just project light. So again, they're really primed for fluorescence. Put them on top of something that already looks like it glows, or something emissive. Yeah. The other thing that might be cool with emissive would be I lost it. Oh, like a lampshade, right? Like if you put an emissive texture on the lampshade that already had a point light or something in it, then it would just look like it was glowing better. This one I tried. It was playing with the emissive, so I've got a pumpkin in here. I made its whole. Let's make sure that goes. Let me. Okay, we'll do this. I made the whole material emissive and cranked up the intensity a little bit, and he looks like he's definitely radioactive, but I'm not sure how much light he contributed to his room that he's trapped in. A little bit, right? I mean, the rest of this, like, look over here, we got dark walls. So he did contribute some light to that empty room. It just looks scary as heck, being all glowy. The other thing we're going to look at here in just a minute are reflections. And I did have one point light in here. Oh, I've got a flashlight. Should point that out. I can turn on and off. This is that one that I told you that had three different spotlights on it, so we get that like concentric circle look, which is a good way to do it. But also, just put a cookie on that thing. Makes sense. I've got one point light over here that I baked, and then there's some fire particles going on there as well. Just jump over the entry if you're not going to be able to get through. And then this is a baked light here. Or, oh, I guess I've got it set to mixed. Yeah. So it baked on the ground and on the walls here, but if you look at my flashlight, I'm still getting light from it. So I've got that set to mixed. So the directional light isn't trying to calculate everything, but as I come through with my dynamic flashlight, it's like, oh wait, you need some light here. And being set to mixed, that worked. But if it was pure baked, then I wouldn't get that. So that's where we need light probes. And I think I've got, yeah, I put a baked mirror over here, but there was no light in the area, so it didn't get anything. And all I'm seeing is the reflection, just because it's a reflective material as well, specular material. I'm getting the reflection of my light. All right, I'm going to try to jump back to the other scene that maybe isn't as broken. Bake intensive. And we'll look at mirrors. So I do want a couple of reflection probes. I'm just going to put one here. So I'm going to come into this parent here and try to use this just as an anchor point. So I'm going to give this a new cube. Didn't want to be a child of that. There we go. All right, so I dropped the cube in. I'm coming to my inspector. I'm just going to reset it so it's over here at this wall. And then I'm just going to turn this into a big old mirror. So it's got a default material on it now. If I come over here to assets, I've already made one, but I'll show you how to do it. Just create a new material. And really all it needs to do is be super metallic and super smooth. That gives us reflection. So if I drag this onto that guy, you can already see I haven't set up reflection probes, so it's not reflecting my environment. It's reflecting the skybox by default. So there's my default Unity skybox reflecting on this super metallic thing. So as you adjust the smoothness and the metalness of it, you basically create a mirror. You can make it be a little not super clear, but there we go. So now we've got that. Add, if it'll let me, a reflection probe. I just need one. And I set it to real time. See now, instead of just the skybox, it's reflecting everything static nearby it. Actually, it's reflecting everything. So if I play this level, probably should have done this closer to my spawn point. Ah, yeah, that's the other setting. Yeah, so real time doesn't always mean real time. So we can have this via some script reflect update the reflection on whatever call, or we can set it to every frame. Well, it's even kind of probably being called by late update. So now it should see me. Look at that. I really got a tan or something. Huh? Yeah, if you want to melt your computer more. Let's see if I can get this to go down. So you can, it's at a 128, right? I can totally, look at that. You can see the update. So if I use a 2K reflection, my frame rate's going to suck. But while I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm going to look really pretty. HDR, shadow, there's all these different things right now. Same as with our camera, we've got this clear flag for either skybox or color. So I'm saying every frame, draw this reflection in 2K. Actually, even now I'm moving faster than I would have thought. It's a little jaggy. Yeah.
It lowers the closer you get to it.
Yeah,
Oh.
it looks better in the mirror than it does in real life. So that's a real-time reflection probe. There may be times you want to put an actual mirror in your scene, something very atmospheric, horror style, whatever. Yeah, we can set one to be completely baked. You're gonna do a couple of them. So the real time, easy to set up, hard on your GPU. We can do a baked one that will just bake the environment. The bake on those takes a hot minute, so that yeah, if you're trying to bake that and a bunch of other things, may be a problem. So if that becomes an issue, you want to put your baked reflection probe in a separate scene just to prove that you did bake a reflection probe. I'd be fine with that. Just leave me some notes in Canvas as you're doing those things. Mirrors, obvious. Just other things in your environment, right? If you've got a giant metallic statue of the Fallout guy, I don't know, whatever, right? You've got something metallic and reflective in your scene. You'll see it a lot on pitchers and goblets and things like that. You just set some little reflection probes around that, and you've got a really shiny glass whatever on your table. I went for a full length mirror just to, as an example. You can import an entire statue and make that whole thing reflective and set up some reflection probes around it. And it's a good question. So it generates from a point in space. If you'll notice, it didn't even really follow me as I was strafing back and forth along the mirror. The reflection moved a lot. So because it's a single point in space, it's drawing its reflection probe from. So depending on what you wanted. So if you've got a really big statue, then you may have to have a few probes around it. And I don't know how it stitches those or anything else. So real time baked, which would get all of that information during the bake and then be just saved. Huh? Do that in a separate scene. So the baked is great if you don't care about if it's first person or whatever, and you don't care about seeing your reflection in it, but you're like, it's cool to see like the reflection of the window or something in this screen, then I would set that up and it would look really pretty. Yeah, you basically got a vampire game. Yeah. Maybe better than the last Bethesda one that came out. Can you throw shade on something that doesn't have reflection? Never mind. So that's reflection probes. Let's look at lots of settings. Play with all the settings on those. Let's look at something reflective. So I went and grabbed some really, really dumb, I may have already broken them, pumpkins. I may have broken the material on them to be already emissive. Right thing. Yeah. So I oops that. I'll grab something else. Apparently I've downloaded more than one pumpkin. While we're doing vampires. These pumpkins are already radioactive. We don't want to mess with them. I want to show you how to do one from scratch. They might already have some emission going on the inside. That'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what copyright they were avoiding saying at that point, but interesting. They've got a whole chain of lanterns here. That's fun. Here. What did they do? They've got a whole different shader on here. They've already got emissive color on it, so this was not what I wanted. We'll make a barrel glow, but we can look and see what they did. So they've got some kind of Autodesk shader on here. There's only dozens of shaders to choose from. So it's already got some glow. Huh? Because there are things we shouldn't do in VR. Spatial mapping. I can see needing a wireframe. Yeah, VR, Tron, wireframe. Yeah, I see a lot of it. Anyway, so, all right. He's already set up. Let's just be goofy and we'll just make our own. So I'm just going to make a game object, make a sphere over here that glows. So we'll set that guy over here. I'll do the same thing. I'll make a new material. We'll call him glowy. Yeah, put him on my guy. And so if I've got a map, like I did with that pumpkin, I can set the whole thing to be emissive, or I can just turn emission on and give it a color. So right now, even with emission on, it's set to black, so it's not emitting light. If I change this up and say you're going to glow red, the other thing I've got, the extra bit I've got in here in an HDR color for the emissive, is I've got an intensity button here, so I can crank this way up and get more light out of it or not. So one, I'm at pink, right? I've got a white material that's glowing red, so it's kind of pink. Can do this, make it look awful. And once you've got emission turned on, you can set that to be real time baked, or none. It's just going to glow on its own and not shine any light out on other things. Just looks bright. So let's just see what that looks like in real time. For the lampshade, yeah. Unless your lampshade had color, right, and you like really were wanting to get some ambiance in your scene. It's not shining out very far, but it does a good job of making things look glowy. Takes a lot to really get it to reflect in your scene. I think I've got some examples down here on the Unity Learn. So this guy, they've got just a standard shader on it. Crank the smoothness up just a touch, or is 0.5 regular. And they've got this orange HDR color on it. And so they're getting this out of it. Yeah. Did I just leave it at 1? I thought I was playing with that slider a whole bunch. I probably, yeah. Heck with it. Let's make sure we're doing it. 10. This guy over here. Definitely going to shine on the wall or whatever. See what that looks like. And he's still real time, right? Yeah. Just see if our wall looks pink. It can be. Apparently it's not. Not doing it. Okay. Let's break the scene. We'll try and bake this. Just to see if we're crazy or not. So anyway, emissive materials. Oh, I was switching tabs. I thought Unity just straight crashed on me. It just went away really quick. Cookies are really cool. Emissive materials, when you get them to work, are really cool. No, it's standard. Yeah, up here. So I don't know. I need to play with that some. You want emissive lighting to work with dynamic or non-static, you use light probes, yes, hitting ambient light. This we talked about the skybox lighting up. But check this page out, and just as you go through, mark all the steps, get your 10 XP on Unity Learn. Become a hero. Yeah, I messed that one up. Let me see if I've got another scene. Well, I want this to do what it's doing. So light probes, you've got to basically set up it like a cage. So I don't really have a good hallway or anything set up for this right now. We'd have to do some more messing. But let me just assume I've got spotlights or something going on in this hallway, and I'm going to march a nav mesh agent through here. If I came and added some light probe groups, we start with this. So within this cage, it calculates, and you can, like, as you're going through, oh, I lost it. It's really goofy. As you're going through this, I can edit the positions. I can add probes. The exact art slash science behind it, I haven't done enough of to really tell you what the best practices are. But I've seen some very complex cages. So each of these points is a sampling point. So if you wanted really good lighting, you would edit this light probe group and positions, right? So I can add a probe, which apparently added it all the way over there. That's fun. You just keep adding probes to this guy and getting more complex. So if you just got a simple hallway with some light and you just want to make sure that you can see the bad guy walking through, a simple probe like this would work. If you need it really complex, you can keep adding probes and editing all those all day long. Huh? Um, like, so they start with 8. I've definitely seen them up like around 24 different probes for some certain sample projects. But yeah, they just like when we had the DET cookie shining down. Since that was mixed, it didn't matter. The mixed says, "Hey, I'll save the baked lighting, and then I've got some real time lighting for you if you come through." Sometimes you don't even have that option, right? Real time directional light can be quite expensive. So if you're going to like a 3D mobile game or VR even, you want it fully baked, and so that's where the light probes are going to come in. It's going to be really saving you on performance and giving you pretty okay different setups. We're gonna look at different render pipelines next week and look at HDRP and all that kind of fun stuff. So those get beefy. Those will melt your laptop. If you've got a fan for it to sit on, bring it. Hmm. Wow. Huh. Let me see if we got any bake on that yet. Yeah, and I think there's some settings for importance on your bakes and on your lights, but don't know what all those do. So anyway, make sure you go through the list. Is there something? Let me just look at the rubric again and make sure we kind of covered. If I can find the project. All right, so you need some interior so we can bake our area lights. We can play with our flashlight. Some exterior because we want the directional light and the ambient light from the environment to be seen. At least a baked area, at least a directional we want baked, at least a point light, at least a spotlight, which if you're doing a flashlight, you've already got one. We want a cookie on something, an emissive material on something. Anything that's going to get baked lighting, you've got to mark static. And of course, bake the lights. And when you bake the lights, I didn't show you that. So here in my scenes folder, it creates all of this stuff, right? And so I've got all these maps that generate when I say bake the lighting. So if you bake your lighting and then turn it in, I shouldn't have to rebake it. It should say, hey, I found all these cool images here, and it's using those for light, put light on stuff, and then we're good to go. So for each object, yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. Let me bring in. Let's bring in Ginger. Well, oh, what's going on? Unity tried to freeze on me. All right. Bake's working on it. It's thinking about it. Okay, I'm going to bring in Cookie Boys here. And usually the third time we'll do it. Oh, and he's doing it on the second. We're doing something.
Some might do it good, but I usually just I drag and I click until the movie just works.
You drag and click?
Yeah, like you like click, hold and drag into it like usual, and then you just click until the movie part of it, and then more just start moving. I ran into this issue.
Unity was finishing its bake, so it's kind of like doesn't want to talk to me right now. Oh, it is. It's trying the import. No, lighting example. Did I drag in the wrong thing? Hello, computer. Okay, try this one more time. All right, this will work. We've got some good and bad examples inside of it. It works out. All right, so I've got prefabs for Gingy and the Cookie Man. Let's find my models for these guys. So we got Gingy here. His materials are just a bunch of colors. So he doesn't really have a good UV. Oh, FBX viewer, why you exist. All right, these are just colors on him. So he probably wasn't properly unwrapped. So what I need you to do is bring in your own custom thing. And then when you're importing that on the model import stuff here, we want to generate light map UVs. You can set these all up to be, different angles and blah blah blah. What this does is, if we had especially if we had something like Gingy here that may or may not be UV unwrapped because we just slapped colors on them, this is going to unwrap something and give it new UV coordinates just to put those light maps on. And so so we want a static object. So Gingy is a bad example in that regard. But if you're going to bring in a treasure chest or whatever that's going to be static in your scene, generate those light map UVs. Actually, this works for nav mesh agents too, so never mind that. Generate that, and then we've got some place to go with these maps. So apply that, and I'll be able to see on your import that you check that setting. We want to bake some light onto your stuff. I don't know why that is not making half my scene pink. Yeah. Good question. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. All right. Well, I won't make the whole video go through baking the light again, but now I've got this sphere static. We'll try it out really quick. So light probes, baked lights, and I'll be able to see light maps to see if you baked. Who cares about baked lights unless I've got something going through there soaking it up? So I need some dynamic game object. So I'm suggesting a nav mesh agent to walk through the light probes so that I can see that the baked lighting is affecting him. Give your players a flashlight, so something they can hold that shines a spotlight out, and then play with, I want a baked, and then also a real-time reflection probe mirror thing, and then your stuff's imported. So we've been through that a couple times. Be as creative as you want with this, but make sure you check all those boxes. And have fun. Good luck to your GPUs. Oh, that's the other thing. Let's just make sure we look at that before I turn this off. So, CPU, probably you're not going to get, so in the lighting setting for your scene before you bake, Yeah, yeah. Generally, depending on your computer, using your GPU is going to be much better and faster for your light baking. So if I go CPU here, right? If I go to GPU, then I've got a drop down here. Do I want to use my Intel graphics or my 3080? Probably the 3080 is going to do it. And still, I've locked my computer up, depending on how much stuff I have going on in the scene. On the Mac, it may look a little bit different. That's, yeah, I'm immediately jealous. All right, enjoy.